What's up, everybody? Welcome to an all-new episode of QB Room. He's Jason Forcier, and I'm Jake Santos. Well, we have a new number one team in college football after this past weekend. Plus, heads are starting to roll as the coaching carousel around the country has officially begun. Which begs the question, what is the best available job right now? We'll rank them next in an all-new episode of QB Room.
QB Room is sponsored by Auto Wiper Blades. Don't wait until your visibility is compromised before upgrading your wiper blades. Auto Wiper Blades are designed to conquer all weather conditions, ensuring your safety no matter the forecast. Plus, a swift and hassle-free install makes wiper blade maintenance a breeze. Experience the difference today with Auto Wiper Blades and enjoy a 100-day test drive of superior visibility. Don't miss out. Visit autoblades.com now.
Right. Well, we got a new number one. I don't know if you saw tonight. There was another rankings every Tuesday night, and deservedly so, in my opinion. I think Georgia has won me over. It's taken me a little bit of a time, but deservedly so. Georgia is now our number one team in the country. They come off back-to-back wins against ranked opponents, Missouri, and then this past week against Ole Miss, 52-17. Did you catch any of that game?
I did. I mean, it's by far the most dominant victory they had all year, and it looked pretty good. I mean, man, they dominated on all sides of the ball. I mean, if you are looking apples to apples, obviously Alabama played them earlier in the year, still figuring out their QB situation. They pulled away late. I mean, it was a game for maybe a quarter.
Yeah.
And then it was all sides, all phases. I mean, Lane didn't have they didn't have a chance. It was a good win. I mean, they deserved it. They're clicking all the cylinders right time. They got Brock back, which showed as well.
Yeah, I think in watching the actual show, it was one of the abbreviated shows because, of course, there's college basketball now that ESPN has to entertain with as well. But in my opinion, I think if they're going to do that, where they move Georgia up because of the back-to-back weeks of impressive wins, then they should have done it with Washington jumping Florida State. Florida State hasn't played anybody since Duke that was ranked.
Yeah.
And this week, they're going to be playing an FCS team. So Washington played USC, who I get it, they were ranked back then, 2 weeks ago. They were ranked 20th. And then they played Utah. They won. No, they weren't convincingly, dominant wins like I would say Georgia's is, but they're much better opponents than what Florida State played. So The only thing I don't like is just the fact that they did it now with Georgia. You should also look around to everybody else.
They better hope that these 2 weeks historically play out like they should. Because I mean, if there's ever a year for just cancel it all and just make it a 12 team playoff, this is the year.
Right.
I mean, it's so funny, right? Like, here we were talking our first couple episodes. The Pac-12 is best conference. And here we are in week 11, and we don't even have our best team in the top 4.
Right.
So there's the media I don't know. They just go back and forth. And like you said, if we're looking at best wins, or best losses, those FSU wins don't look so hot anymore. The ACC is definitely fallen apart. As good as Georgia's been, it sounds like, or it looks right now, Missouri's probably the second best team in the East by a long shot. I'm just thinking, it would be wild. What if Alabama beats Georgia? And then, okay, let's pick Michigan or Ohio State, one of those wins, right? So you got 2 right there. You have, let's say, Washington, Oregon get in, and Florida State. Does Alabama jump Texas and all of a sudden become in the playoff if they beat Georgia?
So here's the thing: they'd put the conference. I think they'd probably both get in somehow, and it would knock Georgia out because they would rank. So let's just say Texas runs the table and Alabama runs the table. That means Alabama's going to have a win against Auburn, whatever, they suck.
Right.
Georgia in the SEC championship game, and then Texas is most likely going to have a win against your next best Big 12 team. I guess it's Oklahoma.
I think back in it, yeah.
So I mean, the other scary thing is this: Missouri, who deservedly so, is ranked 9th in the country. The only team that helps is Georgia, because Missouri didn't play Alabama, and Missouri can't get to the SEC championship, to where if they were to play Alabama and Alabama wins, then it's a good win on their resume. So I see Missouri there. It's great. They deserve it. But who are they really helping other than Georgia? Georgia doesn't have anybody else to play. They play Tennessee coming up. But, I mean, they should run away with that. So, yeah, it's interesting to see. I wish that they would have put Washington ahead of Florida State. They're both. It's not like one of them has one loss. They're both 10-0. And, if you were really making the argument, Washington clearly has the better schedule. They have the better upcoming schedule. And maybe that's what they're waiting for, which sucks. Yeah. Washington, Oregon State this week, they win. They'll probably jump Florida State. And to be honest, if they beat Oregon State on the road, who's to say they don't knock off Michigan?
Yeah.
And put them in front of Michigan, and then wait till Michigan has to play Ohio State. So I hope they give credit to the Pac-12, man. I really do.
Same here. I'm worried right now. If they win out, right, and beat Oregon twice, is that enough in case, like I said, if Alabama beats Georgia? Who gets that last spot? Like, if Michigan ran the table, they're a lock. If Florida State runs a table, are they a lock? Probably, right? And then if Alabama beats Georgia, do they jump in? Probably. So who's the fourth spot, or like the fourth spot coming in? Do you have Texas if they run the table? There's like 5 spots for 4.
So here's the thing. If Florida State and Washington both run the table, there's no shot Florida State's getting in. If Washington runs the table, you look at that schedule that they played, Oregon twice, Oregon State on the road, Utah, SC.
You have to beat Oregon again.
Arizona, who's now ranked.
Right.
You would say that they have the best resume. I mean, Michigan's going to beat Penn State and Ohio State. That's just 2 games. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State, and a loss to Michigan. Georgia, undefeated. I mean, Washington and Georgia would be your 1 and 2s. And even if Alabama wins, then yeah, it sucks. But you gotta give it to the team that's undefeated, and you gotta give it to the team that has the best resume. So it's gonna be fun, bud. It's gonna be a good
2 weeks, 14 days. Let's see how it goes.
All right, moving on. There's it's been a little fun. This is starting the coaching carousel is starting a little early, and I think one name we suspected, another name I don't think we did. But the 2 big names recently are Jimbo Fisher out of A&M and Chip Kelly, rumored. However, it's been going around on social media all day today that he's going to be gone after the USC game this weekend. Jimbo Fisher, man, you called it. He's a salesman, and he bought himself some money. He got $76 million in a buyout. That's pretty impressive. All in all, since 2022, there's been $146 million given out to Power 5 fired coaches. I think we're in the wrong profession for us.
Wrong. Yeah. We definitely picked the wrong one there. I was reading something. His buyout is as large as Kansas State's athletic department's budget. I think their budget's like $80 million.
That's awesome.
And that's like a Big 12. I mean, it's not like a small school. There's so many things to unpack, right? It's like, okay, coaching, I think they figured that out, right? Why they do it now versus 2 weeks ago, who knows? Who cares, really? I think they finally just became real with it, that they had to make a decision. Does it reset the coaching market? I don't know, right? Because, like,
that's a good question.
There's probably going to be another coach that gets some type of guarantee. But it's just weird. You got all these coaches like with sub-$100 million contracts getting paid to essentially have like 7-3, 8-2 seasons. And they're all shooting for and Kiffin's one of them. They're all shooting for Saban. They're all shooting for Smart and so. So I'd be curious, like, how does that reset the market if it does? What does it do for their recruiting? What does it do for their hiring? Are they going to come out and say, hey, like, we need another really good coach, but we ain't paying the next guy $100 million? And the best part, like, I'll close this off real quick. Like, the shame on A&M, like, the guy was not doing well last year. he had nowhere to go. Like A&M just wasn't prepared. So you think about like negotiating in general. Like they were so. It wasn't like they had a backup option. They were so worried this guy was going to go to LSU that all he had to do is flirt that for a couple weeks and got the locked-in guarantee. All
Right.
because A&M, with their ego, was so worried that their coach would just drive south a few miles and go coach the other program. So go back to that sales guy. He's a closer.
And we'll get into a little bit of just we're going to break down A&M and really what that program is here shortly. But just a couple of others with Chip Kelly. I think that's the one that came across today that what I've been reading is the boosters and alums, they don't want him. They want to start fresh going into the Big Ten next year. I don't believe he was that big in terms of trying to get, donations, endowment towards their program, towards NIL before going to the Big Ten. And it was one of those things where it looked like the alums were putting pressure on the AD. You got to get him out before we get to the Big Ten.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's like a huge disappointment, his tenure so far at UCLA. He just did get one of the best quarterbacks in the country, also a Michigan dude in terms of where he's from. So it's like he was recruiting as if he was going to the Big Ten already. Dante Moore is that quarterback. He's a freshman. He played a little bit this year. But, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just based off of your expectations of what UCLA is supposed to be and what it can be. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Texas A&M.
Yeah.
But realistically, I mean, yeah, because you got LA, you got Hollywood, the glitz and glamour, whatnot. But like Texas A&M, Texas, UCLA, USC. We know Texas and we know SC is the more traditional powerhouse program. They've won, and the expectations over there are much higher. Granted, that's fine. But I don't think UCLA's fan base has this huge expectation like A&M does. Like, not even a chance. And hell, that's even that close. So I was a little surprised to see that. I think it's a good job. We're gonna debate that in the pick 6 coming up here on some of the best job openings coming up in the offseason here around college football. But some other ones that happen. Brady Hoke here in our hometown in San Diego, he has been asked to step down. So he's going to do that at the end of the year at San Diego State. Andy Avalos at Boise State, he's going to be gone. That is one that I think was pretty disappointing these last couple seasons at Boise State. Zach Arnett, Mississippi State, is the other one. So there's other jobs that are already open because of, coaches being fired before they even step foot on campus. It was like, what's the dude at Michigan State?
Mel Tucker.
Mel Tucker, Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern. They weren't even able to start the season. So a lot of job openings, and we'll get into that. But I want to go back to A&M. It's not really a rant, but let's be honest, A&M fans. How good are you really? You haven't won a conference championship since 1998. The last appearance was in 2010 in the Big 12. That was the last appearance. So they haven't done anything in the SEC. They're 42-31 since joining the SEC in 2012. And let's be honest, Johnny Manziel's your proudest moment. The stadium is awesome. The 12th man is awesome. You have all the money in the world. But I guess my question to you, Jason, would be, why do they think that all that money is going to be able to buy them a championship? Because here's the thing.
Yeah.
You're the 4th best team in your division in the SEC West. And now you're adding Texas, and now you're adding Oklahoma. So regardless, like let alone the actual conference, you're not even coming close. And you think that because you have all this money and because you have this big stadium that everybody's going to come and you're going to get all these recruits and you got high-profile coaches, but you're not going to be able to compete with LSU and now Texas and Alabama. And even Auburn's a more prestigious program than A&M is.
Yep. They're kind of just in the middle. They're mediocre. And I think they admitted that when they left the Big 12, right? They were like, okay, if you're going to go play football and college football in Texas, where do you really want to go? You want to go to Texas. I mean, from everyone I've heard, you grow up, you want to go play football at the University of Texas. A&M's not going to ever get those top recruits. So they've gone. And then they're like, okay, we're going to go to the South. But if you really want to go play in the SEC, where do you want to go play? You want to go
Right.
play at Alabama. You want to play at Georgia. You want to play at Auburn. You want to play at Florida.
They joined the
A&M,
SEC at the wrong time.
they joined at the wrong time. And so they already had money. They got more money.
Mm-hmm.
All it did was the money created bigger problems for them. And it created this outsized ego. And the joke's on them now, as we said earlier. I don't think it's going to get any better. I don't know who. I mean, as we get into it, I mean, early take. Who wants that job? I mean, they just paid someone $100 million, and they're going to say, "Well, we want to go get another coach that's going to take us to the promised land, but we're not going to pay them as much. We want you to prove it." So they'll probably go find some hot shot, but I don't know who that
Cliff
guy's.
Kingsbury.
Yeah,
Cliff
I mean
Kingsbury.
that was the one that did come off the top of my head when I was like, okay, there's one guy. He was there for a hot minute with Manziel. Yeah. But it's I think it's going to see that there's more than money that meets the eye. There's a little more than coaching as well. There's something missing that the program's just not getting.
If you were the AD at A&M, I understand the amount of money you get to play in the SEC. But with the new 12-team format, if you're trying to actually win a national championship, isn't your best option to do so to go back into the Big 12 and actually have a chance at winning and becoming a conference champion and getting an automatic bid into the playoff? You are not going to – I'm just going to list this. LSU, right. Bama, Ole Miss, Texas, Oklahoma, A&M, all on one side. Then you have Tennessee, then you have Florida, then you have Georgia, and Missouri now on the East.
Right.
That's 9 teams. I mean, unless you're doing your own national championship out of the SEC and your own playoff that we don't know about, like, don't tell me it's not all about money and that it's about national championships, because you're never sniffing one. Right. I don't care how much money you have. You're never coming close. Not in that conference. You have to be the top 2, maybe top 3 to even get in to the playoff. You're still only going to get 2, maybe 3 teams into the playoff out of the SEC. Maybe 3.
You bring up a good point. I mean, these super leagues are going to create super teams, and these teams that otherwise would probably be deserving to get into a playoff or a championship game are going to be stuck in the middle of the road because they chase the dollars versus just trying to be the biggest fish in their pond and just get a chance. It's almost like, I don't know, it's like the NFL, right? How many years did the Packers, when Rodgers, I felt like the NFC North was just terrible for so many years, right? But then you have other leads or other divisions where, I don't know, the NFC East, where it was like a 3-way
Giants,
tie.
Cowboys, Eagles.
Yeah. It's if they were just in a different division, they'd make the playoffs.
Right.
It's going to happen to those teams. I don't know. It goes back to the ego. There's no way A&M waves the flag and takes a step back.
I know, which is great because they're just going to suck even more. All right, that's going to lead us to the pick 6 then. So right now, Jason, there are 7 coaching jobs available. It is Northwestern, San Diego State, Boise State, Mississippi State, Michigan State, Texas A&M, and now UCLA. So for this edition of the pick 6, we're going to pick the top 6. We're going to rank them, tell you why, maybe even throw out possible names of who we think might be heading that way. Do you want to start? Do you want to rank? Do you want to do it by tiers again, or do you just want to give me your top 6?
I'll go ahead and go off. And I think so here's how I'm thinking about this. When I look at these teams, we just talked about A&M, right? I'm ranking these based on expectations and potential. So right off the bat, going back to the homeland, number 1, San Diego State. You got a brand new state. You got a brand new stadium. You got a brand new stadium. You essentially have all of SoCal to recruit for kids that want to play on the West Coast, right? Outside of them go to the Big Ten. But I think you have the opportunity. It's a wide open conference. There was flirtations of them joining a bigger conference. I think at some point, I think you can get that. There's energy into that program. They just want a coaching change. So I don't think they're not expected to go compete for championships, right? You get good weather, recruit some good players, and maybe it's a jumping off next one. The next one, I'd say Michigan State, because it's a big time school. I mean, a lot of people forget Saban started there. Or he didn't start there, but I mean, that's really what got his thing. Really, all you got to do is beat Michigan. You're not expecting to win national titles. Now, Michigan's not an easy beat these last few years. But if you beat them, you compete for a Big Ten title, you go to a New Year's Day bowl game. I think more than not, that is a really good season year. And you're going to get paid. I mean, shit, they're going to give Mel Tucker $100 million as well.
Yeah.
So I think you get a little bit of the best of everything there. That might be it. I mean, maybe the best job. It's 1A, 1B. Number 3, I would go. I'd say Northwestern as well.
You're taking all the lower one. Well, Michigan State. Michigan State's a top tier one, but yeah,
top tier. I mean, it's a Northwestern. There's Stanford. You want
no expectations.
Why? I mean, it's like, what's the point? Like, you're paid to go win football games. Pick the path of least resistance.
Sure. It's a way to go. I get it.
So Northwestern, obviously, you can recruit. Great location. I've always actually been surprised that they haven't been able to do better. Obviously, they had a couple good years with Pat Fitzgerald, academic standards and stuff. But I think they can duplicate that. 4, I would go with UCLA. UCLA is weird, man. They I was just looking when you were talking about Chip Kelly. That was like type hire. But they've had those. And I was just looking. The last time they'd been to the Rose Bowl was 1998, I believe.
McMahon.
It was Bob Toledo was their coach. They went 10-2. And since then they've had Carl Durrell, Neuheisel, Mora, and Chip Kelly. So you have this team in LA that's just vastly underperformed, right? So I think you have the resources there. Now you're in that conference. It has everything there lined up. I don't think it has the polarization that USC may have, oddly enough. And same thing, if you could put together some good years and beat USC, and just get to the Rose Bowl or whatever bowl that will be prominent, it'll give them a chance. I would go Boise State next.
Number 5.
5. And then for obvious reasons, good program, solid jumping hiring point. Mississippi State and A&M. And here's a big reason. The SEC has way too much expectations that they think every single team their team is the best team, and SEC should be competing for a national title. Even Mississippi State does to an extent. Dan Mullen created that. He should go back there.
He might be a name. He might be a name at A&M.
And then A&M, same thing. I just until Saban and Kirby Smart retire, I wouldn't. I mean, those are tough.
Touch it, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
How about you? I took a little too long.
No, you trust me. I mean, that needed a lot of explaining considering you've been with San Diego State, number 1. All right, so I do like how you started off on what you'd be basing this off of. So I'm going to base this off of expectation, what I know is going to be able to profitability in terms of money. And I can kind of see a little bit something in terms of growth, right? So I'm actually going to go UCLA number 1 for me. Your recruiting footprint in Southern California, if you were just doing head and shoulders San Diego State, UCLA, 1, you're going to the bigger conference. You should be able to get better recruits than San Diego State. 2, you might be getting a new stadium on campus. There's a possibility of that. I think everybody would love to see UCLA stay in the Rose Bowl, but the truth is they don't sell it out completely. In the north and south end zones, they put and it's a pain in the ass to get there. I think that will change. On-campus stadiums are always the best. So there's always that possibility of trying to do that. There is tradition at UCLA. There's a history at UCLA. Again, joining the Big Ten, you're going to be able to get some more money out of that. I agree with you that the expectation may not be to win national championships, but it's at least to compete. And it's at least to be able to compete in the Big Ten. I also like the idea of starting fresh somewhere new. I like the idea of the fact that you're going to get Southern California kids that want to be able to play against Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State year in and year out. So I have them as number one. I think it'd be cool to take over that program. Who is going to go there? I don't know. No idea. It doesn't need to be a big name, in my opinion. Number two, I'm not going to go San Diego State yet. I actually think, man, like there's part of me that wants to go Northwestern. And I'm not going to go Northwestern yet, but there's part of me that wants to go Northwestern. I'll leave him for 3, so I'll agree with you on that, on number 3.
You gotta tell us
number
why.
2, though. Yeah. Number 2, though, I'm still gonna go. I'm still gonna go A&M, and here's why. Do I think they're leaving the SEC anytime soon? No. Someone's gonna throw me a shitload of money to either win or then lose and just fire me without cause. It's gonna be A&M, and yeah, you might go 7-4. 8-4, whatever it may be, 9-3 at best in that hard ass division and conference. But to be able to actually use that as a stepping stone to somewhere else, I think people should start using Texas A&M as a stepping stone. It's the SEC. It's really hard to come out of that place. The fan base is awesome. They'll get behind you for a little while because they think you're God's greatest gift now that they have a new head coach. And sure, if you don't win a national title in 5 years, or if you don't win a SEC title in 3 years, you're going to be on the hot seat. But compared to all these ones, I would say it's 2. 3 is going to go Northwestern. Okay. I love the idea of where Northwestern is versus where Michigan State is. Michigan State's in East Lansing. You know that area better than I do. I hear East Lansing. I think it's a shithole. I have no idea, but I'm going to guess it's a shithole. It looks freezing. The stadium looks like it kind of sucks, like they don't want to upgrade it ever. Northwestern's getting a brand new stadium. Northwestern's practice facilities are on the beach. You get to live in Chicago. You get one of easily the best education. Maybe UCLA can compete with that, but probably the best education in terms of a recruiting pitch. And you should be able to recruit the Midwest. I know it's hard. Yeah. NIL, endowment, get those freaking, who is it, Michael Wilbon from ESPN. Come on, man, throw us some of that money, right? So I'm going to keep Northwestern at 3, and then I'll make this quick. I'm going to leave Mississippi State off. I'll go Michigan State 4, San Diego State 5, and I'll go Boise State 6. I think down the line, personally, these lower tier schools in the SEC, in the Big 12, in the ACC, Big 10, they're going to drop off. I think all of them are going to be playing in their own division soon because they can't hang.
That's a good point.
Maybe A&M might be part of that. But in which case it would be a great place to go play for.
It would be really pretty cool if they adopted the soccer,
the relegation.
Style. Yeah, you relegate. Yeah. It actually aligns with the passion of college football and how much smack.
Correct.
You're down. You're down one lead one year and then you're up the next year type thing.
Yeah, and they compare European soccer to college football over here all the time in terms of the passion, in terms of the fan base, in terms of how many teams and programs there actually are, right? Mm-hmm. To be able to follow, and there's little pockets around in cities and towns that have their own team, and man, it's the closest thing that we have as a parallel to them. So I do see that can happen in the future. I think the Pac-12 is trying to do something like that with the Mountain West. I don't know if they'll do it, but that is the rumor as well. All right, let's keep our coaching headsets on real quick. This is a question for both of us. It's a fun one. I've bounced around this answer for a long time here, but I thought it'd be really good to be able to ask you this. You're a young, up-and-coming coach. Do you take a Power 5 coordinating job or a group of 5 head coaching job? Do you take a Power 5 coordinating job or a group of 5 head coaching job? What do you do?
What are the additional contexts? We're just the position coach.
Let's say we are a coordinator at a lower tier Power 5.
Okay.
So we're a coordinator at Northwestern or Vanderbilt.
If I've been a coordinator at a Power 5 program, I would definitely take the next step and go grab a group of 5 head coaching job. Of the options out there, obviously, like you said, I would try to go take a mid, like this, like similar level, maybe a mid level, where there's room for growth. Expectations are strong, but you can exceed them, and set it up for one. You're going to learn as a head coach what type of staff you put together. How do you compete day in, day out? And so when you're interviewing for those top jobs that inevitably will come together, you're just a little more buttoned up. You got to take kind of the stair-step approach. I think if you bite off more than you could chew and go take a head coaching job, I've seen it with some of the coaches that coached under Coach Harbaugh at Stanford. Some of them had some success under Harbaugh, and then a lot of them got head coaching jobs at Power 5 programs, and some did not last very long. And I think because they just simply weren't ready. So I would like to take that approach. The only way if I said, hey, there wasn't a coaching job or I didn't get it, my backstop would be to go become a coordinator for Nick Saban or Kirby Smart or one of those like the top 4 or 5 type coaches, right?
Yeah.
And learn from them. How about you?
I think I would take the head coaching job at a group of 5. I would do it because I need to be able to take that next step, right? And everybody knows that group of 5 head coaching job is typically a stepping stool to the next best thing, which is a Power 5 coordinating job or head coach job. But you mentioned Saban, right? You mentioned guys like Urban Meyer. Meyer was Bowling Green. Meyer went to Utah, which was a Mountain West or a WAC team before. Then he went to Florida. He skipped the coordinating part once he became a head coach, but he took the head coaching job at the group of 5s. A Power 5 conference is looking for somebody who can say, yeah, I ran a program. Not just, oh, you're an offensive-minded dude or you're a defensive-minded dude, but you ran a program. You were in charge of not just your position group or just calling plays or your offensive sets. You were in charge of a whole team. There's so much more that comes along with running a program than there is being an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator or a position coach. So to be able to put that on your resume, no matter where it is, I think other ADs or other coaches, head coaches, are looking for people like that who can handle so much more on their plate, take much more responsibility of being able to run a program. And who knows, man, like whether you go 7-4 and the best you ever do is a 9 or 10 win season, what they want to see is growth. So for me, I would take the opportunity right away of being a head coach somewhere.
What group of 5 conference would you think is desirable?
I would go to so let me pull up the standings real quick. But my immediate thought is the Sun Belt. I mean, the American is something. Conference USA, it's a little too spread out for me for Conference USA and the American Conference.
Yeah.
I would say though, like for example, in the American Conference, like Tulane is sick.
Yeah.
Like it's an on-campus stadium. It's a cool city in New Orleans. Memphis is the other one. Memphis, I've been to the Liberty Bowl, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
These are schools that have history,
right?
And they have big enough stadiums to play in Power 5s. They have the facilities to do it. In fact, most of their other programs, college programs, are competing in bigger conferences. Charlotte, mean, you can look it up right now. Charlotte 49ers, I guarantee you the amount of money they're putting into that football program, they just built a brand new stadium not too long ago, and now they're building another one. But again, if you're looking for growth, right? I want to say guys who came from East Carolina are the Rileys. Believe it, Lincoln Riley played, coached at Lincoln at East Carolina to get his start.
Yeah, even you got, obviously Kiffin did his thing at, was it FAU or FIU? You got Hugh Freeze, Liberty.
Yep.
There's a handful. I think it would be anything basically east of Texas. If you drew a line up there, just because of, obviously,
they give a damn. They give a damn over there.
And if you do well there, if Boise State came knocking, those are good ones too. Right. But even there's like a little bit of expectation there, right? Like you kind of have to do well. But if you knock it out of the park and go upset a couple of teams, all the big boys are really going to be knocking. It's
a fun one.
Definitely a very competitive football. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's a good debate. It's a good topic. There's always people that you see, that get fired from a coordinating job or get elevated from a coordinating job, and they take this head coaching job at a huge Power 5, and like you said, it doesn't work. Yeah. And then you see the guys who take their time with it, man, and they build something.
Brett Venables is that example. I mean, how many years was he under? What's his name over at Clemson?
Dabo.
I mean, he had a head coaching job lined up every season, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And even he had a rough go at Oklahoma his first year. And I would say this year, obviously they're competing, but they've had a couple of rough stretches. So it's not just because you're a well-known coordinator too doesn't mean you're a lock.
Yeah, there's another name. Brian Kelly, your boy at LSU.
Oh, Cincinnati.
I remember him at Cincinnati, man.
Coaching the Kelseys. Yeah.
Yep, he was at Cincinnati, and I want to say he was somewhere else in the MAC before that. But yeah, that guy. It took him a while, but it worked out really well. All right. Let's move on to our second segment of the show. It is putt, man. Hey, we're doing much better. I think we're doing much better.
Playing 500 ball.
Yeah, last week you went 2-2. Last week you went 2-2. I went 3-1. Our lock. Last week I picked our lock. It really seemed like a for sure bet. Kansas at home -4 against Texas Tech. I mean, the CFP thought they were good.
Under was a lock too.
Yeah,
that did not happen.
So real quick, last week I went 3-1. I got the under of the Michigan-Penn State game. SMU -17 against North Texas. New Mexico State to win on the road at Western Kentucky. That was an upset that I picked. And then Memphis I didn't get -11 versus Charlotte. You didn't get the BC Virginia Tech game or the under of Utah Washington, but you did get UNLV, and you pulled off a good upset with Coastal Carolina against my Texas State Bobcats. So this week I'm going to go Tulane -9 versus FAU. Miami to win. I got Miami to win.
Ooh.
Who did I got? Oh, Louisville. Yeah. Louisville. I look at the records and I'm like, there's no way Louisville's going to be 10-1. Like, that's not. If there was a script like there was in the NFL, the script doesn't say Louisville ends the season at 11-1 with an ACC championship game. Maybe 10-2, or maybe 9-3. But yeah, so I think Miami. They're at home. They host Louisville. Let's see if they can get a knockoff, a little upset there. SMU versus Memphis. I have the over 66.5. And then I have Washington to win on the road. They are underdogs at Oregon State. So I have two to win games outright. So if I were actually doing a parlay, I'd get a little bit more money. What about you?
Nice. So I got Duke covering -3.5, Virginia.
Okay.
I'm gonna jump in on this Iowa defense under parade they've been doing. They've been hitting the last year. So Iowa, Illinois under 30.5. I mean, I think it was 22-0 last week. Iowa had a little off the showing, but I'm gonna take the under there. I'm gonna stay on the UNLV bandwagon. They got Air Force. It's basically for the Mountain West.
Right.
They got +3 at Air Force. It's at Air Force. Air Force has dropped 2 recently though.
To my bows, bro.
I know. They beat
Tomatoes.
them.
That
I mean,
was a shocker.
think about UNLV real quick, right? They had that tough loss to Fresno State, but then they lost.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were fairly. I mean, it's game 2 of the year, but they were fairly. They didn't embarrass themselves against Michigan.
No.
It was 31-7, something like that. And then my last pick, I gotta help out JMU. We need a little more extra publicity for them to get them a bowl game. Do they get approved yet or no? Are they still fighting that?
They are still fighting for it, and that's one of those. That's the reason why I said the Sun Belt to that question,
Yeah.
man. That's the perfect example of a place that said we're starting from the bottom and we're going to get to the top. And I promise you, that is a place based off of their student body and what they're investing into that program. You drive by, Jason, and you're like, wow,
Yeah.
this is a real D1 program. And it sure is, man. They shouldn't have to wait. Again, it's horrible what the NCAA is doing, but hopefully they let them pass.
Yep, I got them at -9. I think it's at home against App State for all the marbles.
Yeah. And College Game Day is going to be there.
And College Game Day is going there, so it's pretty damn cool.
All right, our studs of the week last week, guys balled out, man. I'm going to go with Dylan Gabriel, 8 total touchdowns and a win versus West Virginia. Clearly, he's not in any Heisman race, but when you go 23 of 36, 423 yards, and 8 total touchdowns, 5 through the air, it's a good day. It's a good call out for him, and I'm happy for the dude. It's a good way to end your college career with Oklahoma. So, what about you?
Absolutely. Same thing, man. I Jaden Daniels is just amazing people, I think, left and right. And I think it's what we were talking about earlier. I think the media is coming around like, hey, like, there's a number of dudes that we invited or won the Heisman that had essentially not the best team, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's got one of the best quarterbacks with the best stats, but against Florida, and Florida has seen better days, but he was 17 of 26, 372, 3 touchdowns in the air. He had another 12 rushes for 234, 2 touchdowns on the ground, a total of 604 all-purpose yards with 5 touchdowns. I mean, I think that's
a Heisman moment.
That's probably the best statistical game of the year by any player, I think.
100%.
I have to be fact-checked, but I mean, that was an outstanding performance. So kudos to him. Yeah.
All right, before we end the show, there was a little bit of a topic that caught my eye: the MACtion. And the MACtion is when the MAC conference, the Midwest Athletic Conference, decided to, back in 2000, play their college football games on Tuesdays and Wednesday nights, because back in 2000 there was no streaming. So on Saturdays, nobody was paying attention to Toledo or Miami of Ohio or Bowling Green, even though they had players like Ben Roethlisberger and guys like Khalil Mack. I remember Jordan Lynch had a Heisman campaign. Western Michigan not too long ago did very well. They went undefeated.
You got Antonio Gates coming out of there.
James there's Harrison, a bunch of guys. There's a bunch of guys. But if you're going to tell me that they don't go to the pros because they never were on TV on Tuesday or Wednesday night, like, that's just blowing smoke up my ass, right? Like Big Ben was going to be a first-round draft pick, whether he was going to be on TV or not. Jordan Lynch was the only one where I'd say might not have gotten Heisman votes if he wasn't on nationally televised games. Right. But what I want to bring up is tonight, Toledo was 9-1, still not ranked after how many games they played nationally this year, still not ranked. And they go ahead and they win in the last minute against Bowling Green. So they're now 10-1, and maybe they'll be ranked in next week's, CFP rankings. But nobody knows about it. Like ESPN does a really bad job. Like ESPN does a really bad job of promoting it.
For sports games, I'm thinking, right? So, like, I feel like ESPN, they're still going to have to do some good marketing around that, right? Like, hey, in between our, our morning and whatever kickoff afternoon, we got streaming MAC. For sports games, I'm thinking, right? So, like, I feel like ESPN, they're still going to have to do some good marketing around that, right? Like, hey, in between our, our morning and whatever kickoff afternoon, we got streaming MAC. But we were talking about this earlier, like, you tune in tonight, it's college basketball, it's NBA basketball. They got the in-season tournament. It's everything but, oh, there's a game tonight?
There was 3.
Yeah.
Since 2000, the decline of fans going to games on a Tuesday and Wednesday night, it's pretty significant. Like they get their TV deal with ESPN. It's each team they signed in 2020. Sorry, they signed it in 2013. $800,000 for each MAC team.
Damn.
Every single year through 2027. So is that worth more than the ticket sales that you could get in to your stadium? Because they're saying that that's what's on the decline. Like there's high school football games on a Friday night that is better and is more attended than a Tuesday night game in Akron.
That's a double-edged sword, right? Because who's going to a football game on a Tuesday night or Wednesday night? You got class. Even the students I'll show up for a quarter and I'm going to go home. It's not a party night.
That's what I'm saying. It's Saturday during the day. Put the game on and you're still streaming it. Right. And somebody who's a fan still gets to watch it. Like you got to the big diehard college football fans aren't going to watch the MAC on Saturday night. We know that. That's the whole reason why this happened. But now that they have a spot for them via streaming, if I'm actually a fan of the MAC, I'm going to go ahead and watch that game instead of the Wisconsin-Iowa game on FS1. I mean, we're married guys. Like, we're not watching college football on Tuesdays and Wednesday nights, right? Like, we put that shit on our wives. We're like, what the hell is this? Who is this? Right? So we only get Saturdays, which is totally fine. But, yeah, it was just something that I can kind of see going away. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing for MAC fans or a bad thing. So that was pretty much it. That was my take on that. I just thought I'd bring that up. Before we go, a couple games to look forward to this weekend. Georgia, Tennessee, Oregon State versus Washington, and then Utah at Arizona. Obviously, the big one is Oregon State and Washington. Georgia and Tennessee, I would have thought in the beginning of the year maybe that was going to be one that, can Tennessee get them? But Georgia's on a roll, man. They look really good. So I'm hoping somebody goes down. Me, it's Louisville. Louisville's going to go down by Miami. I think everybody else wins that should win. It'll be interesting to see what Michael Penix does. Maybe he has a Heisman moment in him.
Yeah, we'll see. There's not a lot going on. It's kind of the week before the madness. It's not relevant, but beat Cal. Got the Battle of the Axe.
There you go.
And obviously down south, you got the other game down there. What were they? You know, when we went over the rivalry games, I didn't know they actually had a trophy. The Egg Bowl, but the bell, the victory bell, USC UCLA.
Oh, right, yeah.
Wow. So, that's another big game. I don't really care who wins that one.
It would have been much bigger if SC was still in the top 10.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right, man. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Again, thank you guys so much for watching and more importantly, listening. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, QB Room Podcast, and on Spotify, QB Room Podcast as well. This show, we're going to try to get out there on other platforms, Facebook and YouTube, so be on the lookout for that. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.